the presentation of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture on their APPs and budget. We know the importance of this department and its centrality in terms of bringing South Africans together and ensuring that there's, there's mutual understanding of ourselves as people and as a country. Let's check on, is there any apologies for this meeting? Or let's check the agenda. Is any item that members would like to add on the agenda? Sorry. If there's none, is there any mover for the adoption of this?
Ndongeni, move the adoption.
Ndongeni moves, any seconder?
Lutsuli seconds.
Who is seconding?
Lutsuli.
Oh, Madam Donna seconds. Thanks a lot, Sis N. Thanks a lot. Noltando.
Recording in progress.
Apologies.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members and everyone present in the meeting. I've got two apologies, Chair. One apology is from the Minister. He won't be able to join us today because he's attending a cabinet meeting. And another apology is from the Deputy Minister. She won't be able to join us today due to the fact that she's traveling back to Joburg from the funeral of the Majesty King Sitau. Those are the two apologies I have, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, honorable members, those are the two apologies. Any comments from the members for that of the apologies? Or okay, in the absence of any comment, I'll suggest that I know that we have a principle that we cannot continue with the meeting without the minister nor the deputy being in the meeting, particularly if it's a budget and the APP of the department, because the minister has signed his name to that, and that there should be ownership of this program. But we hear the apologies. The DG is in the meeting. And this is our last day, I'm told, for committees. So for me, I'll urge members that let us give the DG a hearing, and that if there are some questions that the DG will answer, and those that he cannot answer, we'll have to call the minister to come and answer them as we go. That is my suggestion, honorable members. We're under pressure in terms of the Parliament's program. But if the House feels that we should send the department away, I'll still feel okay with that as the chairperson. It's over to you, members. All right. In the absence of any comment on this one,
Chair. Ndongeni.
Oh, Honorable Gillian, I see your hand. Sorry.
Ndongeni.
And Ndongeni. Honorable Gillian and then Honorable Ndongeni.
Thank you, Chairperson. Allow me to not switch on my video because my network is very unstable because of the weather. Chairperson, for me, I think we must not accept that we continue with this meeting. If the minister is not available, where is the deputy minister? Is there an apology from the deputy minister as well? Forgive me, Chairperson, I'm still not well, but I want to participate in this meeting. But we can't do justice, Chairperson. And in the same committee, we've sent the Department of Higher Education back when the minister was also out of the country and the DM was preoccupied. So I don't think we must do, we must continue with the meeting, because it means then that we are getting the one department privilege of the other one. We must stick with the rules of Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Gillian. Honorable Ndongeni.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everybody. Chair, I agree with Honorable Gillian, because it's all departments. We must treat them equally. If there's no leadership, they must go, because the leadership, they know that they're going to have a meeting at 10 o'clock today. So the apologies, I'm not agree, especially in deputy minister, because they're supposed to stay somewhere and get to the meeting. After that, fly to Cape Town or fly to Joburg, whatever. So this meeting mustn't carry on.
Okay. Any other comment from the members?
Chairperson, it's Honorable Christians.
Honorable Christians.
I just want to agree with the two previous speakers wholeheartedly that we cannot continue unless the accounting officers are in the meeting. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Lutuli.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the members have said it all. It's a standing resolution that we took. So the meeting can carry on without the minister or the deputy minister. Thank you.
Okay, no, thanks a lot. Honorable members, this meeting will be, I don't know how we're going to go around this one. Noltando, is there any slot that we can get before to deal with this matter for the presentation of the APP and the budget?
Today was supposed to be the last meeting of the committee, Chair, for this term. But I can check if it's possible to maybe meet on Friday.
Yeah, if it's Friday, let it be in the morning. Yeah. Honorable members, this can we move to the next item on the agenda? Noltando will work out a plan and then check if we cannot get another date, maybe tomorrow, to be with the minister and the deputy, or what, or at least one of them.
Chairperson, I've raised my hand. Chairperson, I've raised my hand. Chairperson, the program of the NCOP tomorrow is 7 hours, starting at 9:30 till very late. I don't think, Chairperson, that the minister and the deputy minister must see whether they can still join this meeting. Let's give them 20 minutes, and if they don't, then this meeting is off. The executive must really come to terms when they are called to the select committee. I don't think they must throw the program of the NCOP over. If they can check, if they can still join us in the next 20 minutes, let's then wait for them. If not, the meeting is off. We can't let our program in the NCOP be thrown upside down. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. DG,
Honorable Chair.
can you be able to check with the DM if you'll be able to join us? If the
Yes,
Deputy Minister will be able to join us. And if we could assign somebody to check that. And then in the meantime, can we allow the DG to do the presentation as we anticipate the late connection by the minister?
Chairperson, let's take a 20 minutes break. We can't allow the department to continue with the presentation if the executive is not available.
Okay, we've got issues on the agenda. We've got minutes of the last meeting. And what else do we have in Oltando on our program? Apart from this presentation.
It's consideration and adoption of the budget vote report, Chair, for budget vote 35, science and innovation.
Yeah, and we have a pair of minutes.
Yes, Chair. One set of minutes.
Okay. As the DG and their team are trying to locate the DM and checking if the DM will be able to join us. In the meantime, we can deal with those internal matters, the program and the minutes. May you flag the minutes? DG?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm trying to get hold of the DM. I will then.
Yeah, you'll give us feedback in the process.
Yes, Chair. Thanks.
Noltando, may you flag the minutes of the last meeting? That's minutes of the 8th of June. Thanks, Noltando. All remembers here the minutes of the 8th of June. Is there any comment on the minutes, corrections? And if there is none, can we move for adoption of the minutes as a reflection of the discussions that happened on the 8th?
Ndongeni moves, Chair.
Ndongeni moves for adoption of the records. Any seconder?
Lee, second, Chair.
Oh, thanks a lot. Let's look at let's flag the committee report.
Honorable Chairperson.
Hello?
Honorable Chairperson, DG here.
Hi, DG.
Can I feedback that the DM is going to try and join the meeting?
Come again?
I was able to talk to the DM, and she is trying to join the meeting as we speak.
She will join the meeting.
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, thanks a lot. No, that's good to hear. So there's no crisis. Yes, the report, honorable members, report of the Select Committee on Education and Technology, Sports, Arts and Culture on budget vote 35, Science and Innovation. It is dated the 22nd of June. Here's the report. We have had this one for quite some time. Go to the last page. Oh, yeah. Yes, honorable member, says the report of the committee for your consideration. Any comments on the report? If none, any mover?
Ndongeni, Chair.
Ndongeni moves, any seconder? Any seconder?
Chairperson.
Am I missing something?
Chairperson.
Any seconder for consideration of this report?
The second, Chairperson.
Hello?
Yes, to be seconding the adoption of the report.
Who is seconding?
It is the Chairperson.
Member Nchubi.
Oh, Member Zube, thank you very much. No, there's, I guess there's something wrong with my gadget. The sound is very, yeah, honorable members, I think we should, I've just talked to the DG, said the DM will join us. I saw she was in them on the platform and then she got kicked out. I don't know if she's in again, but
I'm back. I'm back.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, DM. And
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks for responding promptly to our request. We understood why you were delayed, and the apology was there where the minister is. Will you just open this and give us the presentation of the department on the APP and the budget?
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to the honorable members.
My sincere apology for logging in late. I attended the funeral of the king of Amampondo yesterday. So I'm actually traveling between Emampondweni and Amtata now to catch the flight to Joburg. That's why the network is not the best. So if I hope I'll be able to hold on at least up to the time that I can get to Mtata. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for allowing us the delay that we have caused to yourselves. The department is here to present the APP, the Annual Performance Program of the department, led by the DG, and the DG will introduce the team that he is with, and I will stay on the program so that I can assist with questions after the presentation if there's any. Hopefully, I will still be logged in at the time, Chair. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, DM. Over to your team.
DG, you can come in and introduce the team that you are with and do the presentation.
No, thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Good morning. And good morning to the chairperson, as well as all the members of the select committee. The team of the department is constituted of the DGs, all of them who are here present. The one for program 1, that is DDG Chikwatamba, and then the one for program 2, which is DDG Khan. DDG program 1 is dealing with corporate services, and then program 2 is dealing with the recreation development and sport promotion. And then program 2 is arts, culture, promotion, development, and that is Dr. Kumalo. And then the one for program 4 is heritage preservation and promotion, and that is DDG Ndema. And then we've got Mtobi, Kamzache, the advisor to the minister, as well as the chief of staff, Mr. JP Lowe. And then we've got from the DG's office, we've got Lodwick, who will be sharing the presentation, as well as Nzimeni, who is also part and parcel of this meeting. From the planning team, we do have Mr. Manasseh, who is currently the acting chief director for monitoring and evaluation unit, and is here with us. And then chairperson, we then also have the CFO, and that is Mr. Mukwame, who is Israel Mukwame, who is the CFO, and is attending, I think, this meeting for the first time since his appointment in the department, because he's not that old being with us, chairperson. And then I think we also have and in the meeting also the colleagues who will then just assist us with the presentation as we share it now. So in a nutshell, chairperson, we are fully represented of the department's team. Or we've got also from the office of the deputy minister and the minister, colleagues who are here present in the meeting. It's Simeon Kanunu, who is a parliamentary liaison officer. Honorable Chairperson, the members of the team as constituted will then assist me as we go through the presentation, and where necessary, where we have to then respond to the questions that will be raised. We are presenting the annual performance plan together with the presentation relating to the budget that is linked to the plan. Our outline of the presentation Honorable Chairperson, is in a manner that says, firstly, what guides us. In other words, what it is that we use for our planning, the instruments for planning, which is the strategic plan of 2020-25, as well as then the annual performance plan. We then go to what are the core outputs in the 2022-23 annual performance plan. We then outline our national footprint, as the government has got an approach which is called the district development model, one district, one plan approach, and then of course the budget breakdown. That is how our presentation has been structured. Under what guides our planning, we indicate the instruments that we utilize. First and foremost, where do we draw our mandate in regard to policy and legislation? And then we go to the breakdown of the planning process and instruments that guide that, as well as then the budgeting process, which finances our strategy. Under policy, we consider constitution, as well as policy, regulations, and all relevant laws. Of course, the most important one is the outline by the Honorable President on what exactly are the expected deliverables under the SONA. And then, of course, what do we have as international commitments as a country, and how does that relate to the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture? Under planning, we deal with the NDP, which is a common vision and a common compact that binds South Africans about the future outlook of South Africa. And that then gives us the long-term plans. Under that, then we've got also the medium-term strategic framework of 2019 to 2024, which then from which we derive our strategic plans. Those strategic plans then inform the annual budget and how do we prioritize on that which is critical for the particular year. Under finance, we are guided by the MTEC, which is the national budget process that guides us, that normally starts around July with the consultations of National Treasury, as well as then up to the time that we submit that budget once the appropriations have been made. Honorable Chairperson, we then look at what are our implementation plans, and that is where then the APP, operational plans, and program implementation plans are then developed. If we then look further, Chairperson, we then say, what are the government priorities? Government has got 7 priorities. 5 of these are the ones that deal directly with our work. And then, of course, there is always a critical priority that cuts across, irrespective of which priority you're dealing with. And that is in relation to women, youth, and people with disability. What are the 5 that we mainly directly affected? Of course, it's a capable, ethical, and developmental state, the economic transformation and job creation, education, skills, and health as we deal with the issues of academies, and then, of course, the social cohesion and safe communities, which is an overarching direct responsibility of the department in which we have to lead as well as coordinate. And then, of course, Better Africa, Better World, as South Africa interacts with the world through sport, arts, and culture initiatives. We then have what we regard as updated government focus areas, which are mainly 4. And these are assisting us in terms of dealing with the current environment. When we do the planning, we have to look at the context. And if you look at the context and the current pressures, in the issue is that we need to ensure we have a stabilization post the COVID-19, as well as economic recovery. So to do this, we are focusing on how do we manage the issue of the pandemic, because it's gonna be here with us. That is then in relation to interventions that the department have to make in line with government programs, as well aware also about the biggest one being the issue of COVID-19 vaccination program that we have to support to ensure that this sector, which has been hardest hit, is able to get people back to their normality and allow the sector to go back to thrive as it should. Of course, then this is to also drive the economic recovery, and we have programs that talk to the economic reconstruction and recovery plan as a department, but also then looking at employment support and relief, as we know that the challenge of unemployment is huge, and also this sector was not spared during particularly the height of COVID-19. And therefore then we had to have interventions that support employment opportunities. And we are fortunate that this area government has made sure that we are also covered with the PESP. And then of course, the last one area is enhanced state capability for delivery of services. Sorry, Chairperson. The department here, we're dealing with ours. We've got 27 entities that fall under us, not necessarily SOEs, but those are the ones that we work with as an extension of implementation of our mandate. Of course, the issues of creating a capable state becomes quite critical. And if we then look at the strategic plan, sorry, Chairperson, and we then start and say in our strategic plan, we start by outlining the mandate of the department guided by the Constitution. And in a nutshell, key sections of the Constitution that we respond to in terms of freedom of expression, which is 16 subsection 1, as well as the issue of section 30 that talks to language and culture. The emphasis there being that everyone has a right to use the language and participate in the cultural life of their choice, but that no one exercising these rights may do so in a manner inconsistent with the Bill of Rights. And I think this is covered also in relation to the limitation that are coming in terms of section 36 of the Constitution, that we do not abuse our rights as guided by the Bill of Rights. Then the second one, as we provide archival and library services, this is about access to information. Then Chairperson, the vision that was then created after the amalgamation of the department, of the two departments, was that we are seeing a nation that is highly active, but also is a creative nation, and most importantly, a winning nation that is socially cohesive. That is our clear vision. How we plan to do that is to provide an enabling environment, as well as for the sport, arts, and culture sector, while fostering an active, creative, winning, and socially cohesive nation. Into achieving then this mission itself, we believe that we will be able to develop, transform, preserve, promote, but also protect sport, arts, and culture. So that is our mission. Honorable Chairperson, any organization then without values has no soul. It's my point that our actions and our behavior and our disposition is guided by values. There are 7 values we have identified. The biggest one that we regard as an overarching with its own key values is about Batupili, as well as then equality, where everyone should be treated equally. Innovation as a creative sector, that we should be able to have an innovative culture, and therefore then those value must be achieved in that regard. Responsiveness, our capacity to respond and react, which is also part of the component of Batupili, so that we're able to give feedback to the clientele we serve. Serving with integrity and professionalism, as well as be able to account for what we do as we are funded by the taxpayer. What is our storyline is covered in 4 areas. We firstly say, what are the government priorities? And then what impact are we likely to make? And in this impact that we want, what then should we prioritize as key outcomes? And to achieve these outcomes, what should we be able to do to enable us to achieve them? So the enabling outcomes are quite clear. Under government priorities, as I've indicated, the main 5 But then we also took into account the issue of infrastructure development, particularly when we talk about transformation of the heritage landscape, as well as in terms of the sport infrastructure. And that is why we've got the spatial integration, human settlement, and local government as we work with them. And then, of course, the impact we want is that of a transformed, active, creative, and winning nation. And then the priority outcomes that we want is market access and share, and as well as creating opportunities in sport, culture, and creative industries, as well as having a diverse yet socially cohesive society with a common national identity. And therefore then, to do that, what will be the enablers is that this sector must be highly transformed, capable, as well as be very professional. And then of course, it has to be having integrated and accessible infrastructure in which all South Africans can be able to access and participate in the activities and the life of our country. But of course, also you need to be compliant as well as responsive to the needs of the sector. So Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members, when we then looked at that, we then said, let us take you through the measuring of these outcomes. How will we know that we are there? We looked at various instruments of research, because we're doing everything we can to be evidence-based. And that is why we've got what we call a South African Cultural Observatory. But here we're using various instruments that we have indicated that will be able to tell us 5 years later, how far have we moved in achieving the change we want. As we said, our storyline talks to the impact. So we looked at the Cultural Creative Industries Growth Index, where the baseline is 4.9%, that we should be able to say later we have moved, at least when we do this measurement again, at least we're at 5%, as well as if we look at the exports of cultural goods and services, how have we dealt with the trade deficit so that there is more exports rather than imports of cultural goods, as well as port economy returns. And therefore then from 0.45%, we said we're looking at 6%, and then GDP contribution attributable to the private formal cultural productions, we are looking at 2%. And then number of people employed in the cultural creative industry, that this will increase from 2.5 to about 4%. And we will share with you, because at this stage, if we look at the overall direct and indirect jobs in the sector, it's about 1 million. And therefore then we're saying that this must be higher and be at least 4% of the total employment in the country. And then of course, the issue of the BEA procurement spending, and that we should be always never be less than 70%. We are not aiming to be less than 78. That is what we are able to achieve. But we are just saying that as per the baseline that government have said that 70% is a target, we will continue to strive to achieve higher than that particular target, as we have done with the baseline of 78%. Then of course, employment equity, these targets are the minimum expected, the higher percentage equity, which is quite favorable. And we are looking here to say we should be able, government have set a target of 50-50, and we believe that we should be able to get 50% or more. Currently, we are at 45% at senior management level, as well as at 2.1% for people with disability. And we target that we should never be below what government have said in terms of 2% and above for people with disability. Chairperson, also what is it that is of interest to the department as an indicator is a pride in being South African, and that individually how to install this sense of patriotism and commitment to our country. Is that when the baseline was done, we did 3%, and now we are targeting that 5 years later, we should be at 90%. at least 90% of South Africans feeling that they are proudly South Africans. And then the issue of race relations, which continues to bedevil the country as racism from time to time in various platforms and ways will raise its ugly head, is that these relations must improve from 42% and be at 60% at least. And then the social cohesion index move from 61 to 70%. And then of course, citizens who show a strong devotion to their country and have no intention to leave or abandon their own country move from 82% to 95%. So Chairperson, these are just the measuring of outcomes that we're saying, how will we know we will be there? The last three are really just talking to then the outcome on how will we see that we have transformed the sector. And we are indicating here that arts culture sector should be properly organized with councils under the banner of CIFSA, but also that they will be improved in terms of the outlook of our nation's performance at the international stage in terms of medal status that we want, but also that the councils not affiliated under the CIFA, and that the total number for 2020 Olympic Paralympic medals will be then improved as we go to the Olympics. And then we look at the issue of an increase number of medals at least by 10. So that is then in relation to the transformed outcomes that we want. And then of course, integrated and accessible infrastructure. As we know that there is always an outcry about our lack of infrastructure and therefore inability to produce a clear pipeline in terms of athletes we want, and even in the creative sector. Is that then the number of sport and recreation facilities that are compliant with norms and standards. Currently, the baseline on those that we built at 137, that we should by in 5 years later be at least 175. And then of course, compliant and responsive governance that we have, and clean audit is our intention, moving away from the unqualified audit. So what is our annual performance plan looking like? And the performance plan, Chairperson, Part A, I have spoken to the mandate. If we can just move forward. This mandate is then informed by these laws. I don't think Chair need to read all of them, but we are just outlining them. And then what are the bills and regulations, the bills that are currently being dealt with. Can you just go back to the bills? The bills that need to be enacted into law: the National Sport and Recreation Amendment Bill, the South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport Amendment Bill, as well as the South African Geographical Name Council Bill. And then the regulations are being stated down there, and they are currently as amended and being implemented. I was just emphasizing the bills because bills have to become law for us to be able to have a sound legislative basis in execution of our mandate. And about Chairperson, we do have the revised white paper on arts, culture, and heritage, which was endorsed by Parliament, as well as then the white paper on sport and recreation for the public of South Africa, the one that we are talking about, it being revised now under the bill. Then Chairperson, policies, it's a number of frameworks that we are using in relation to policies that guide our work, and then are listed as indicated on the slide 22. Honorable Chairperson, then we also continue to say we cannot always disregard the issues of what court rulings are saying, because we then have to inform our policy back review and see where there's a need for improvements. And there were cases relating to Sarah, which was taken through the public protector. And then after that, there was an out-of-court settlement, and then that was made into act. And then it indicated the issues and gaps that we needed to address in our policy framework. And we subsequently had to revise the policies so that we are able to close the gaps on the MGE funding issues. Of course, also then we just look at any act or court that might have implications on our work and our policies, and then we respond accordingly. Of course, Chairperson, Part B of our strategic plan then looks at the situation analysis. I will not go into detail, but just to indicate that we then had to adapt to a number of key challenges we have faced as we develop this. COVID-19 is an obvious one. The issues of the level of vaccination to reach the national immunity for the population at 70%. And that is why we're driving that campaign of a hashtag, it's in your hands, vaccinate. And then we'll be able to return to sport and our events. And then of course, the context that requires acceleration of economic recovery, as well as support of the sport and recreation bodies. Of course, the issue of return to play, but it's a return on international cooperation. We know that the geopolitical environment is dynamic and fluid, as we even now dealing with issues of Ukraine and the Russian impact. We need to then to see how do we adapt, how do we create new economic opportunities for South African arts and sport, so that we have those relations where we can enter into what we call the MOUs with different countries to advance sport, arts and culture, but also create opportunities for our sector. So issue biggest one, the twin pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide, and how we respond to that. And hence we have an integrated program that deals with this issue. Then the cross-cutting areas of youth, women, and persons with disabilities, fighting corruption and ensure that there is clean governance and that our department is not tainted by any corrupt activities. And how do we deal with this, creating awareness, but also looking at internal controls that will help us prevent activities of corruption or minimize opportunities for such. Of course, then the ministry will determine what are the areas of priorities that we need to also pay attention to, so that we do not have a rear mirror view only later, but we're able to get guidance from the executive. So that is what we took into account when we dealt with the situational analysis, and of course the SONA on them, and then the fact that the sport departments, the two departments were merged, and today we are busy with the organizational review to have the appropriate structure that responds to our strategy that we are presenting here today. If we move further, Chairperson, we look at then the outcomes, the key outcomes that we are dealing with. The first one is what I mentioned earlier. We look at the government priority, and it said economic transformation and job creation, better Africa and world. In this regard, then we derive our outcome, which talks to increase market share and job opportunities created in our sector of sport, cultural, and creative industries. We said then through this APP, the interventions will include an enabling environment in relation to the frameworks that will be guided by research in our interventions so that we are evidence-based and we are able to do scientific analysis and targeted interventions in both how we fund and regulate the sector. But also then we said we will be able to support a range of cultural and creative sector initiatives that will promote the diverse creative industries. We also said we will then have the expansion in new and traditional creative industry markets, cultural diversity, as well as heritage, and increased economic participation by those who were historically disadvantaged through the apartheid system at the time. Then, of course, how will we know that these are the results? The results should be research outcomes, intellectual property development, integrated funding model, as well as the cultural creative industries master plan. That will be then linked to research intervention. And then in terms of the outputs related to the support to the sector is that we should be able to produce films and documentaries, implement flagship programs, as well as cultural and sport events, be able to support emerging creatives program, and we've got visual artists through the Art Bank, as well as the National Orchestra, Mzansi Golden Economy, and Public Art, and will be some of the outputs. Under the expansion of the traditional creative markets, we are saying that we'll have market access programs, including the issues of foreign venture, well as multilateral engagements, bilateral engagements. These are concretely expressed, for example, when we say we've got cultural seasons, where South African creatives go out of the country to perform, as well as get the other countries to come and perform in South Africa. Of course, then economic participation is that we must ensure that there is job creation, targeted procurement spend in line with the BBBEE guidelines. Chairperson, if we move to the second government priority that will respond to social cohesion and safe communities, what is the outcome that a DSAC has to achieve is a diverse, socially cohesive society with a common national identity. Hence, we've got a very big program called a hashtag I'm the flag, and therefore then check my identity to be South African, for the flag and the national symbols represent who we are. What interventions are we gonna have is that programs that will increase awareness on the Charter of Positive Values and national symbols, as well as equalizing opportunities, inclusion and redress. And then also the intervention will be about increased interaction across space, race, and class. And that is by facilitating opportunities for people. Here, Chairperson, we talk of the moral regeneration movement programs that will be implemented, as well as the flag campaign, for instance, and promotion of national symbols. Under the equalizing opportunities, we're looking at transformation in sport and recreation, and we are guided here mainly by the tool produced called by the EPG, which is the eminent persons people. The group assists us then in terms of giving us a sense of whether there is transformation in sport and what do we need to do and which areas are lacking. And then, of course, target groups, social compact, gender-based violence and femicide, and anti-gender-based violence and femicide programs. We do have also what we call living human treasures, where we do the decoding of information, get it documented from those who have been there, who have been the trendsetters in the field of arts and culture and heritage, so that should any inevitability of them passing on, we do not lose the knowledge that they have. We call that a documentation of the living human treasures, and we make publications. Of course, interaction by South Africans through national days, among others, advocacy platforms on social cohesion, as well as community conversations, but also having youth focus as programs, international cultural seasons. We also look at sport and recreation promotion campaigns and events, like the mass participation programs that we have as a department. Of course, the needs and visuals are a given, led by our ministry, both the minister and the DM. The next one is education and skills and health, government priority. The department then intervenes in terms of seeking to have a transformed, capable, and professional sport, arts, and culture sector. What interventions do we make is that we have increased awareness of the sport, arts, and culture offerings, as well as opportunities. We also have capacity building in the sector. We then also intervene through the practitioners, ensuring that practitioners achieve success at international events, but also have to capacitate, organize, and professionalize the sector. Now, under the outputs, when we say increased awareness on the opportunities available, we conduct promotional campaigns, And then for capacity building, we've got various academies. We place artists in schools. We do have bursary programs. We've got incubator programs, as well as various capacity building programs. Then on the issue of the practitioners achieving success in international events, we've got high performance athletes program in which we support the athletes. We look at the development of talented athletes and we fund those programs, was also providing scientific support services to these athletes, as well as then government support on anti-doping to the anti-doping agency. Chairperson, we also then have, in terms of organizing the sector, we also had to provide relief through COVID-19 programs that we had, but also to support the national federations, as well as the sector support that was provided to ensure that also we provide sports equipment and attire to both the clubs and the hubs and the schools, particularly when we open the new courts. And then under spatial integration, human settlement and local government, our output as a department then is to build what we call integrated and accessible infrastructure, as well ensure that there is access to information. The interventions under access to its provision of access to information, and we do this through promotion of official languages in line with the Act. And then we have also records that we get digitized. We always have at least a target of 32 libraries per annum that get funded or financially supported to be built. And then we've got the National Archives that has to be managed so that people can be able to do research and all other related work to access information. Then human language technology projects where we create and assist in developing terminologies that are related to the languages that were previously disadvantaged, so that no one can say my child cannot learn maths because there is no utility value in this thing. They can't even write any maths in any at their matric level. And that is why we've got partnership with Basic Education and the pilot that is being done in Eastern Cape, which is highly welcomed, but also the bursaries that we provide to universities to support the issues of language development, particularly of the previous languages. Then we've got the Archives Awareness Week, as well as the endogenous knowledge systems. Again, here is to make sure that the African knowledge systems find their rightful place and are not subjected to be inferior to the Western knowledge systems. Then, of course, there's other infrastructure, the sport, arts, culture, infrastructure programs. Here we talk about national heritage legacy facilities, the resistance and liberation heritage road sites, 3 per province that are being developed, as well as then the sport infrastructure projects, outdoor gyms and play parks that we build. And then of course, we also do multi-purpose hubs that we develop in the various provinces, in the local municipalities in particular. A government priority talking to capable, ethical and developmental state. Here, Chairperson, we said then what is our response? And our response is about compliance as well as responsiveness. And the interventions will deal with the issues of firstly, performance and financial oversight, both internally as well as in our entities. And the output will be that we will have a proper planning that will be done and produce strategic as well as annual performance plan and reporting, which will be done monthly, quarterly, and annually in year monitoring reports, as well as do everything we can to prevent irregular, unauthorized, and fruitless, wasteful expenditures, and then have, as I indicated earlier, an improved audit outcome, and eventually be able to achieve a clean audit. And therefore, then, Chairperson, under the capacitated human resources, without skills, you cannot develop, your sector can't be professional. And therefore, it is important that we've got intention programs that look internally to also help the young people who are unemployed and be taken at least at 5% of our staff. And then, of course, human resource planning, as well as recruitment and selection to get the right people with the right skills and attitude placed and appointed at the right positions. And then manage the vacancy rate as per government, which we should be at 10%. And then we have employment equity, as well as implement consequence management and all the rest that is indicated there, Chair. And then, of course, integrated stakeholder management, where we have the cluster coordination, participation in the forums. All these, Chairperson, fall under mainly program really one, where we have to deal with the issue of the governance. And then, of course, strengthen public entity oversight mechanism, where we have the declaration of the PE Opera House, but also the minister signs shareholder compacts with the chairpersons of the entities, and then have the boards that are fully constituted, but also functional, and then conduct oversight visits. And then we've got a big program related to amalgamation of the entities as per the revised white paper. Of course, service delivery, we committed to have improved turnaround times for payment of invoices within 30 days, improve service delivery, and also conduct citizen satisfaction index, as well as modernize our systems to respond to the demands of the new skills for the new age, particularly post-COVID. Of course, having a secured policy in relation then also to improve the proper way of dealing with SCM processes with proper controls. Finally, Chairperson, in Part C, we are just indicating here what exactly do we want to do per program. We outline what each program does, and then we indicate the targets there. So under program 1, which is administration led by the DDG Corporate Services, we have the following indicators, and that is the intent, as I have spoken to this, that we have to always make sure we have at least 5% of them within our staff, against our staff establishment. Of course, then 2, modernized services, as well as then the awareness campaigns for Izimbizos at 9, and then invoices at 100% within 30 days, those that are valid invoices, as well as all councils should be fully constituted and functional. And program 2, Chairperson, is the one that has got 3 sub-programs: Winning Nation, Active Nation, Infrastructure Support. This program deals mainly with the issues of mass participation opportunities that we create, but also the development of elite best athletes, as well as the regulation and maintenance of facilities. And that is why then we've got these 3 sub-programs. Winning Nation talks to the elite athletes and support given to them. And then the Active Nation talks to the issue of mass participation opportunities. Infrastructure support cuts across for both sport as well as, in particular, heritage. And then also that we do provide technical support to the construction, repair, and renovation of buildings to public entities and institutions. Chairperson, the targets are broken down as follows. The number of athletes that are to be supported, 80 in this year. And then the number of athletes supported by sport academies, target is 3,700. And the national federations are meeting 50% or more of all prescribed charter transformation targets is at 89.5%. And then we are saying that number of people actively participating in organized sport, at least 315,000 people. And then number of sport and recreation campaigns and events implemented, 8. And then the number of schools, hubs, clubs that are given equipment and attire at 2,500. And then number of learners in the National Sport Championship per year at 5,000. And then number of learners participating at district school sport tournaments at 75,000. The number of municipalities provided with technical or management support during construction. Chairperson here, maybe just to give the context, this is in relation to the MIG, as we provide that COCTA provides that money to ensure that then it is used for purposes that it is intended, and that the infrastructure developed is in terms of acceptable norms and standards, and therefore then we do provide this technical support and monitor that those get done. The number of community outdoor gyms and children's play parks that are constructed at 10, and then the number of heritage legacy facilities, or including the Resistance and Liberation Road, is at 3. The third program, which is program 3, is the promotion and development of arts, culture, and languages, as well as implement the National Social Cohesion Strategy. Honorable Chairperson, here we're talking of our sub-programs as National Language Services, but also the Cultural and Creative Industries Development, which supports the creatives in terms of the implementation of their development programs. So we provide the necessary support to them, and we support sector organizations programs and provide training to arts and culture practitioners. The next one is international cooperation. This also then helps us in building a continental and international relations, what others call soft diplomacy, through arts, culture, sport. And then of course, social cohesion and nation building. As I indicated, the National Social Cohesion Strategy, so that we bring the groups together and we utilize the platforms such as schools, and we get it working with basic education to ensure that this particular area of teaching is not treated as an extracurricular, but as part of the core curricula at the schools. And that is why we talk of mainstreaming this particular subject. And then of course, we also look at a coordination of priority 6, which is social cohesion and safer communities, and report to cabinet. Then of course, the last one is Mzansi Golden Opportunity Economy, which creates huge opportunities in the relation to economy as well as employment for the creatives. And then it got various programs, but its main objectives are 4. Is that of developing audiences, stimulating demand for cultural products, increase market access, as well as develop schools. And that's why academies are funded through the MTE. Then the department also then transfers the funds to National Film and Video Foundation to support the development of skills and local content and marketing South African films, audiovisual, as well as digital media industry. So their targets, Chairperson, are mainly the following. The issue of the multi-human language technology project supported at 6, and then the issue of translation of any document or editing from the different sectors of society, as well as different government departments. Everything we receive, we must be able to translate and edit at 100%. Bursaries. Here we're talking about the language practitioners, particularly of the previously marginalized languages, and that we provide 250 bursaries. We target 250 bursaries to the language practitioners and working with the universities. And then of course, access to international market platforms, we're targeting 15. And then the issue of the building capacity building programs at 22. We're then hoping that the number of provincial arts development programs implemented will provide support to 9. It's 1 per province, which then has got sub-programs from those community arts centers. And then of course, youth focused programs that we're looking at 4. And then number of gender-based violence and femicide projects that will be financially supported at 3. And then the number of international engagements coordinated at 20. And the number of moral regeneration projects supported by government at 5. And then number of community conversations in promoting social cohesion and nation building at 20. The number of advocacy platforms on social cohesion implemented by the social cohesion advocates at 20. And the number of monitoring reports on the social compact for social cohesion and nation building at 2. And then the number of projects through which target groups are supported at 8. And then the number of national day celebrations held. As we all know, we've got 6 national days in this country, and we make sure that they are all celebrated as a department. It's a direct responsibility we have. Number of projects in the creative industry supported through Mzansi Golden Economy, it is at 67. And the number of artists placed in schools per year, we target 300. And then the SACCO reports, as we have a research agenda, is that they must give us 16 reports per annum. Then the number of films and documentaries which tell our stories, particularly of history of liberation, cultural and heritage importance at 10. The last program, Chairperson, is program 4, and this program deals with our heritage promotion and its preservation. It has got the following components. It deals with the issues of the South African heritage landscape issues. It deals with issues of archives and the heraldic heritage, as well as oversee and transfer funds in relation to the libraries. This program, then, heritage promotion, is mainly really to look at the range of heritage initiatives that we have to undertake. In particular, if you look at the transformation of the heritage landscape, we're looking at how best we can conceptualize legacy projects that talk to our heritage, but also how do we support heritage institutions through funding. And those would be museums, the National Heritage Council, the South African Heritage Resources Agency, but also documenting South Africa's indigenous knowledge, but also the maintenance of the Bureau of Heraldry, which talks to our mainly national symbol, as well as then, of course, registers symbols that might come through that are required, but have to be first and assessed before they can be registered as national symbols. Popularize national symbols and coordinate the issue of National Orders Awards ceremony, working with the presidency. When there's outstanding South Africans and those people who were friends of South Africa are being honored through the national orders. And then National Archive Services, it's about acquiring, preserving and managing, and also ensuring that the records are accessible. And those are records that have got what we regard as enduring value. In other words, they are records that must be kept for future generations to know who we are and what has happened in this country. Public library services, access to information. This is important. We receive what we call conditional grants, and we'll give the breakdown. But also then we have to provide sector services to the South African Geographical Names Council. And this is an advisory body that deals with issues of name changes. So that we are able to say that these places' names must change, as we know the famous one of Makanda and Kmef. Honorable Chairperson, the targets is a number of students awarded with heritage bursaries because we need the skills here because they are very scarce. In fact, sometimes we have to rely on international experts to be able to have this. We have to build our own and make our own, build our own timber to make our own furniture. And we need these skills, and therefore 45 students get these bursaries. Then, as we indicated, the number of living human treasures published, we're targeting 5. And then the number of awareness activations on I am the flag campaign at 20, and then the number of flags provided to schools, because this is now a maintenance program, as we've done all the schools. We are then targeting that should you need a replacement, at least we are able to provide you immediately with that, and we're targeting 100 replacements per annum to the schools. And then, of course, number of workshops hosted to advance national symbols, 10, number of heritage legacy projects where exhibition content is developed at 3, number of progress reports on resistance and liberation heritage route sites received and analyzed at 2. The reason we're talking about reports here, Chairperson, is because the implementation and development is a responsibility of province, and each province is allocated 3 liberation heritage sites that they had to then deal with, and then we provide financial support through the National Heritage Council. And then, of course, the number of records to be digitized at 240, and the library is financially supported per annum at 29, and then the number of gazette notices on the standardized geographical names to be published at 3 per annum. Honorable Chairperson, the issue of GBVF is a reality, and our women and children in this country are facing this challenge almost every day, if not almost every hour. And that is why then the department, in response to the president's call on what should be the government's response to fight GBVF, the government has got a program that is regarded as an integrated program to respond to this scourge. And then South Africa, we are saying we continue to be enmeshed in fighting this crisis. We then have this compounded by the issue of COVID-19, and therefore then we've continued to see this increasing. So if we look at the next slide then on how we have responded, we are indicating here, Chairperson, that at an administration level, provincial communities endeavors are conducted to discourage harmful cultural practices, as we know that sometimes culture is used, is abused for the benefit of particularly men who think that they can use culture as an instrument to torture and abuse women. And therefore then we encourage these endeavors to deal with these harmful practices. Then recreation, development and sport recreation, we create platforms working with Love Life, as well as a sport for social change, as well as Minister's initiative here has been about the issue of sports ambassadors that have been also identified to assist in this regard, as well as safeguarding in sport policy and the women and sport policy that we are busy finalizing. Under the Arts and Culture Promotion Development Branch, we have social cohesion, conducting community conversations with the topical issue being to discuss this scourge. But also we've got what we call Bakawe Fazi campaign, where we've got the survivors and the champions who come and be able to address in various provinces this issue, telling how they survived and empowering those who are there, encouraging them, also those who might be just facing this, on how to deal with this and get out of such relations. And then Silapa Wellness, which supports the creatives in terms of, as we know, we have been facing a challenge of losing lives. And then you find that there will come some of the creatives in particular level of committing suicides. And this program provides almost 4 key areas on supporting them. Of course, in issues of dealing with financial support and financial skills, but also looking at dealing with the issues of financial management and legal issues that they have to cope with. We know that sometimes they sign contracts that are to their disadvantage and they lose and don't own their own talents. But also then this program looks at capacitating and providing lifestyle so that they can be able to know how to manage their lifestyle, because there is a lot of pressure and cutthroat business that they face in this area. So Silapa Wellness Program really is a psychosocial, financial, emotional support to the creatives and athletes. Kulikane is where we've got the men and the young and boys talking to each other, engaging, so that we deal with proper socialization of a boy child, not to become a future abuser. And that is where we are able to bring them together. But this campaign has been even expanded to have also men and women talking to each other around this issue. And that is why it says Kulikane, which says enough is enough. Let us end this now and not have it transmitted to our young boys. Translation of GBVF messages into other languages. Heritage and promotion through legacy projects. We try to have a balance here so that our history does not only talk to the men's heroics, but also documents and able to reflect contribution of women in South Africa's struggle for liberation struggle, but also in terms of women's contribution overall for South Africa's development. And therefore then we need to immortalize works of such women. One of such programs is the Sarah Bartman Center of Remembrance. Honorable Chairperson, I think I will end there because of time. I have made the case in relation to this. We also then outline in our APP the focus group targets that we have, and what are we doing around that. If the chairperson allows, time still allows, we can then just outline these target groups in terms of youth and what are the programs we're doing. Otherwise, we can move then to allow the budget to be presented. I can be guided by the chairperson in terms of time.
My apologies, honorable members. The chairperson has lost connection. There's no network where he was, so he's trying to drive around looking for connection. And he asked that I request one of the members to chair the meeting in the meantime.
Honorable Gillian, are you there? Hello? Okay, no problem.
Member Tongeni, please, Chairman, I'm not feeling well.
Okay. Do you hear me, ne?
Yes, we can hear you, Honorable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, TT. Well. You said you want to wrap up, ne?
Yes, because I just wanted to have
Can I give you 6 minutes?
No, thanks very much. I will be done, and then I will hand over to the CFO chairperson, who will take us through the budget.
Okay.
And, yes. No, thanks very much. We then also looked at our APP, Honorable Chair, looked at the issue of the cross-cutting target groups and where our interventions should be. In here, we looked at the 7 apex priorities, and then we said, how do we respond to the cross-cutting priorities that need to be mainstreamed into all of our programs as a department. In this regard, Chairperson, I will ask that we go to youth just to get give a highlight of what we do there. If we go to the next slide. Then we will continue to support youth-focused programs and create access to promote participation of young people. And therefore, then we collaborate with the Department of Basic Education to implement our sport, arts, culture, programs through arts education and training, artists in schools, as well as school sport, indigenous games that target mainly the youth, but also in terms of mass participation in sport, with the development conditional grant target young people in school sport, club development, and community sport programs. If we look further, we do have programs that create jobs for the young people, as well as we do provide funding in terms of the arts. Particularly, we work with BASA here, Bank and Arts South Africa, where we are really looking at how to support youth and provide the budget for them. But also we've got Young Patriots program that caters for youth, so that these young people are able to promote particularly the national symbols program, but also roped in now to deal with issues of GBV. But also then for women, if we look at that program, we also have focus programs that support programs that are done by women in sport as well as women in art. And those programs, the chairperson here is targeting women and girls in the mainstreaming of the programs. These codes, such as rugby, football, and cricket, we only provide funding for them for the school sport and women participation. And that is ring-fenced, and they have to account how have they used that budget to promote participation of women, particularly also promoting, for instance, Banyana and the league that we said we are providing funding for. So the department will continue then to support the Women's Football League over a 3 period, and we provide that. But also in terms of recognition, we've got the G-Sport Trust that we work with to make sure that we recognize women achievement. It's just a reward event that just recognizes women athletes. And then in terms of research and the baseline that we do, we have looked at the Sports Federation's commitment to women, and they also be informed by the EPG report that tells us the inclusion of women, whether it is at a level of coaching or it is at a level of management. We look at that, and the department have also then looked at those research baseline study that was done, and informed the women and sport policy. And then of course, we also have the transformation, transforming the world of work for women and ensuring their inclusion in the mainstream economic activities. Here we look at how we can best target areas of inequality in the labor force participation, entrepreneurship, as well as the areas of equal work for equal value. So if we look at that and dealing with patriarchal systems, which remain a huge challenge and forces women to remain on the periphery of sport as well as art. So those then are the programs that we look at and how we can deal with it. Persons with disability, also we had to say we must have key programs that look at that, both in terms of school sport, but also in terms of the arts, where we have established a particular program that focuses on artists with a disability, but also we've got an event where they've got their own special event, We Care program in relation to this, but also focusing on the wheelchair and basketball and as well as tennis. And we do that in order to support the people who have persons with disabilities. Chairperson, the indicators that we then provide from the side of the public entities, if we just go further, and maybe here we just want to indicate, Chairperson, that the support about the library services conditional grant is to ensure that for people with who are partially sighted, we provide now that most of the libraries at this stage are able to provide easy access to information. There are equipment and instruments that we do provide, but also that most of the libraries are beginning to have at least the services to the people who are partially blind, and be able to then be assisted with the instruments that they can use to access information, not just to have this centered at the library for the blind, but it's getting more and more decentralized so that it can be accessible throughout the country. Something that is an initiative led by Library for the Blind chairperson. So if we look at the technical indicator and descriptors, I think we can move on that. We've been talking about it. What I would like just to indicate, chairperson, is the DDM, because I know that the honorable members would always want to know what is happening in my province. So we thought it is important that we provide this national footprint as well as project distribution. So if we go to the DDM model, and that will be our slide 61 and 62, it's just an annexure, Chair, where I don't have to talk much, but I know that the honorable members here have a vested interest whether we are distributing resources to all the provinces. So this is just a model of what we are doing based on our targets. So if you look at this DSA, the department's project implementation in provinces, we then give you a breakdown just to indicate that green represents program 2 projects and how they are distributed. If you look at program 3, will be the projects related to ACPD. Then program 4, the color there is almost, what do I call this color? But that orange color is in relation to heritage projects. And then it indicates the total number of projects, and that will be brown. So you will see, Chair, that if we look at the breakdown per projects, the province with the most projects is at 70, and then and that will be Eastern Cape. And then if you look at followed by Gauteng at 57, and then KZN at 55, and then you have then the distribution at 40 at 36, which would be Northwest, and then you will see that at 34 would be Limpopo, and then at 32 will be Western Cape. We try here just to indicate what are these projects per district. Yes. Thank you,
I give you 6 minutes, but you're more than 6 minutes, and you are carrying on. I thought you were going to summarize.
No, I'm done, Chairperson. This I was just confirming how to read this breakdown per province. That is all of my, Chairperson. Thank you very much. Can I ask the budget to the CFO, Mr. Mkhwame?
With pleasure.
Mr. Mkhwame?
Yes.
No, thanks. Morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, DM, DDG, and DDG. I'll be presenting the departmental budget for 22-23. Under administration, we have 453 million. Recreation and development and sports, 1.4 billion. And then arts and culture promotion development, we've got 1.7 billion. And then heritage and promotion, we have 2.6 billion. And on overall, we have 6.3 billion. Next slide. That is the breakdown of the departmental budget. Inside the department, we've got about 19% allocation, which is amount to 1.1 billion. And then outside, which is provinces, public entity, non-profit organization, we've got about 79% of the 6.2 billion, which is around 4.9 billion. And that is the breakdown of programs. Program 1 is about 7%, sports is about 23%, ACDP is about 28%, and then HPP is about 42%. Next slide. And then if you go to your economic classification, under composition of employees, we have budget of 376 million, and the goods and services is 632 million, and the current payments total is about 1 billion. And then if you go to transfer and subsidy, is around 5.0 billion, and that is a breakdown, mass participation at 600 million, and then community library at around 1.2 billion. And then community library service grant capital at 310 million, and the departmental agency at around 1.6 billion. Next slide. And then transfer under foreign and governance and international organization is about 5.7 million. Public corporation current is 104 million, and then public corporation capital is 606,000. Household, the total budget is there is 28 million, and the non-profit institution current is 366 million, and non-profit institution is about 21 million, and higher education institution is about 7 million. Next slide. Payments on the capital asset, the overall budget for 22-23 is 206 million, and the breakdown is as follows: machinery and equipment around the budget of 12 million, and then heritage asset, the budget there is 193 million. Next slide. This is our earmark fund for capital works, infrastructure for public entities is 193 million. Legacy project is 12 million. Legacy project on heritage asset is 235 million. And capital works upgrading of public space, community arts center and incubators program is 5 million. Community library national is 26 million. Mzansi Golden economy 307 million, and national film and video foundation is 149 million. Oversight and support for sports infrastructure project in municipality is around 6 billion. Pan South African Language Board is 123 million. Sports Federation is 117 million. The Sports Trust is 25 million, and Life is 39 million, and MGE is 440 million. Next slide. Community library service grant is around 310 million, and community library service grant current is 1.2 billion. Composition of employees related to that grant is 376 million, and mass participation sports development grant is 603. Next slide. This is the breakdown of the conditional grant in terms of mass participation sports development grant. Eastern Cape is 70 million, Free State is 41 million, Gauteng is 102 million, KwaZulu-Natal is 97 million, Limpopo is 64 million, Mpumalanga is 52 million, Northwest is 47 million, and Northern Cape is 35 million, and Western Cape is 91 million. And this one is the conditional grant on community library and service grant. Total is 1.5 billion, with that breakdown between current and capital. For Eastern Cape is 141 million. For current and capital is 39 million. Free State is 169 million for current, and then capital is 14 million. Gauteng is 162 for current, and then 11 million for capital. And then KwaZulu-Natal is 106 for current, and then 18 million for capital. And Limpopo is 98 million for current, and then 54 for capital. And then Mpumalanga is 122 million for current, and then 46 million for capital. And then Northwest is 113 for current, and then 39 million for capital. And then Northern Cape is 157 million for current, and then 23 million for capital. And then Western Cape is 188 million for current, and 1.5 million for capital. Next slide. Thank you, Chair. That will be the end of the presentation on the MTF budget. Thanks.
Okay, DG. DG.
Yes, Honorable Chair, we are done with our presentation and would like to thank you for the opportunity. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, DG. Members, hear the presentation Anyone to have a take? No, Tando, please help me. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to see the hands. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I think.
There's a hand of Honorable Christians, Chair.
Honorable Christian.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm also going to leave my video off due to network issues. I have a few questions, not very many. I'll submit the rest in writing to the department. My first comment that I would like to make it is about the 440 million that has been set aside for the cultural and creative industries. Now, it is very encouraging that this intervention is going to take place to combat the impact of COVID-19 on the cultural and creative industries. I think that this area of our industry really needs a boost to stay alive and to stay relevant. Now, additionally, there appears to be an increase in the number of entities that are experiencing operational funding shortfalls. For example, recently the DSAC Museum presented their case to the committee, and I see that there are 7 entities in the 2022-23 budget where funding has been prioritized to assist these entities. All these entities are also museums, which is very worrying. My question is, how will this funding be managed and reported on? And how will the select committee be kept updated on the progress that these museums are making? Now, as I said, while it is encouraging that quite a bit of money has been allocated for these industries and for these entities, I want to specifically go to the William Humphreys Art Gallery in Kimberley, which I see is one of the museums or art galleries that has been earmarked for funding. Now, my question there is, when will that gallery be getting the needed attention? And how will that money be rolled out? What is the time frame, etc.? If we can be given a little bit more information on that. Additionally, the Berkeley West Museum, also in the Northern Cape, has now been closed for a number of years, even before the pandemic. That museum has been, in fact, it's dilapidated. Most of the things there has been stolen, the windows are broken, the infrastructure is dilapidated. Now, this museum in Berkeley West used to be a treasure trove of information, especially with regards to the early history of the alluvial diamond mining in South Africa. So people used to go there and they, it used to really be a nice museum, small, but gives a lot of information about the history of South Africa. Now this museum is closed for a number of years. It is dilapidated. How much funding is going to this particular museum in Berkeley West? Or will the department or the province not be looking at reviving this particular museum? Additionally, in Berkeley West as well, the library there, a relatively new library. If I'm not mistaken, that library isn't even more than 5 years old. But just recently, that library has also been closed because it is experiencing infrastructure and funding issues. Now, how will this library and others like the Kimberley City Library be revived with regards to infrastructure and funding? I think that it is very concerning that most of our libraries and museums are really basically just falling apart. My last question is, what measures are being put in place to ensure that all this funding that is being allocated to not only the creative industries, but also to museums and libraries for intervention are managed effectively? And additionally, that these intended beneficiaries are not disadvantaged by poor planning and implementation. How will the department also keep us in the loop and give us continued feedback with regard to the rollout of this funding? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Christian. Tando?
It's me, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Comrade Gillian. Honorable Gillian, sorry.
Thank you, Chairperson. As I've indicated before, I'm going to leave my video off because of bad network. Chairperson, let me first of all welcome the presentation by the department. I hope the DM is still in the meeting because I am going to ask if the DM is not here. Then the DG must give me an answer. It's not a question on the presentation. It is a comment that I want to make. Even last week, this committee received a presentation by States SA. DG, I am representing the Western Cape in the NCOP. Part of that report of States SA was very, very alarming. When Mr. Maluleki himself gave us a background of what racism States SA experienced in the Western Cape. And it did not only come from one part of the community, but from all denominations in the Western Cape, which is very alarming. And my comment in that meeting was the following, that when the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture will come in front of the select committee, I will also pose a question to you. The issues that was raised is, I don't think it fits in the democratic South Africa after so many years. So what I would love to ask from this department, what kind of social cohesion programs are you running within the Western Cape? So many years into a democratic South Africa, where everybody must be treated equally. We still got this racism, I can't call it another word, that States SA experienced in the Western Cape. The field workers were really humiliated from all communities in the Western Cape, white, African, colored. And I think this department got a role to play in assisting South Africa to get social cohesion. I really need to know what kind of programs are you running in the Western Cape to get social cohesion, to assist us in getting this racism that still exists in the Western Cape out of the way, or to minimize it. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Gillian. Tando, any hand?
There's no other hand, Chair.
Chairperson.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Mbulelo Baha.
Imbulelo.
Yes,
okay.
Chair.
All
Chair,
right.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let's first welcome the presentation as done by the department. But mine is just to get a sense that there were artists who were unhappy with how issues relating to compensation during the COVID-19 period, who felt that they were hard done by the department. I just want to get a sense, Chairperson, is that still the case, or has that been resolved? And if it's been resolved, how has it been dealt with? That's just one question that I had, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Honorable Baha. Any member? Tando?
There's no other hand, Chair.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Tando. Okay, let me ask myself now. DJ, in program 1, the department added a new indicator on the number of izimbizos held between political principals and the community regarding issues around sports, arts, and culture. How will the department ensure that such izimbizos are effective? How will these resolutions from the izimbizos be incorporated into the department's programs? How much budget will allocate towards the izimbizos given the reduction in the program 1 budget? 2, have all the critical vacant positions been filled by the department? If not, what is the delaying the process? The last one, in program 2, recreation development and arts promotion has such reduced in both nominal terms and inflation adjusted. What are the reasons for the reduced budget? What implication will the budget reduction have on sports and recreation? Thank you, DG. Can you please, CFO, give me the difference? I'm sorry, I'm a layman. When you're talking about the current and the capital, what is the difference? Can you please, you just help me. Thanks. DG, over to you.
Yes.
Or
Thank you, Honorable
DM is still
Ndongeni.
around.
Yes, I'm here, Honorable Ndongeni.
DM is still around. DG?
I'm trying to check.
DM is still around or is gone? If
DM?
it's not, you can carry on.
No, thanks. Honorable Ndongeni, Interim Chair, can I then just request first, I think Mr. Ndima on the issue of the museums that has been raised, as well as the library concerns from Honorable Christian, and then I will ask the DDG Chikwatamba, supported by DDG on the issue of the very desperate situation on the racism and the vis-a-vis social cohesion programs. And then I ask Chairperson that, or as well as DDG Kumalo will then deal with the issue of the Honorable Pasha's question. And then the CFO knows what to do. But also DDG Chikwatamba can touch on the issue of the Izimbizos as raised by the Honorable Interim Chair, Honorable Ndongeni. And then I will just fill in the gaps if there are any. DDG Ndima.
So sorry, Chair. Sorry, DG. That's one question I forgot. On your APP, does not stipulate how it plans to support athletics.
I'm going to start and then you will come after them. Honorable Ndema, mute, please.
Thank you, DG.
Sorry, apologies, Honorable Chair.
Okay. On your APP, does not stipulate how it plans to support athletics to prepare for the 2024 Olympics Games. Are there any program and funds that the department has set aside for the 2024 Olympic Games to ensure that the country wins more medals? Thanks, sorry about the delay.
No, thanks, Honorable Interim Chair. I think we will respond. Honorable DDG Khan is here. Honorable Mr. Ndima.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. DG, it's Pulenkekana here. Mr. Ndima is in the Eastern Cape on official assignment there. I'm attending with Tembi Malau, who will address all the questions regarding the museums. I just wanted to comment on the question that the specific question relating to the Barclay West Library. The Barclay West Library was undergoing some refurbishment, and that is the reason why it was closed, because it had a leaking roof. But the library is now operational. In fact, in April, just recently, we had an event there celebrating the reading there. So the library, as we speak, is operational. But also, as members would have realized, in the budget, when the CFO was presenting, there's a capital budget as well as current budget. The capital budget is meant to support provinces in terms of building and constructing new libraries, but also refurbishment and maintenance. So where there is issues regarding maintenance, provinces are able to tap into that budget to address those challenges. Let me hand over to Thembi to address the issues relating to the museums. Thank you very much, DG.
Thembi, Pauline, you did not show your face so that honorable members can see you are not a robot. Please, colleagues, when you speak, you just show your face and then you close, and as you continue to respond. Thembi.
Good morning. Thank you, DG. Good morning to the Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. I will then switch off my video. Thank you for the question, honorable members. Indeed, our museums across the country, both museums that fall under the national department and those that fall under local and provincial government were heavily affected by the pandemic, and some were actually, when the pandemic spread out, some of our museums were already experiencing financial challenges. And it is true that some of the museums, as the one that has been mentioned, Ditso and William Humphreys Art Gallery in the Northern Cape, were provided some financial intervention was made towards their operations. How the department will ensure that the funds that have been added to their allocations will be properly managed. I think we believe that in the normal quarterly reports, annual reports, and the quarterly visits that the department, through our portfolio that is responsible for our entities, this will be monitored. And also to say that the additional funds that were given to these museums were additional funds towards their operations. So they will be able to assist the museums to operate optimally. With regards to the Barclay West Museum, honorable member, I think the department may have to engage I think it falls under a provincial department, but we will, from the department side, we will engage the relevant authority that should be responsible for this museum to find out what the challenges are and what are the plans with regards to ensuring that the museum is operational and it is returned back to how it was previously managed. Thank you, DG, and thank you, honorable members.
DG?
No, thanks, Honorable Chair Ndongeni. Can I then ask DDG Chikwatamba?
Good morning, honorable members, and good morning, Chair and DG and Deputy Minister. I'm not gonna keep my video for long. I think I'm already being warned on my network. So if you allow me just to greet and close my, starting with the question on the social cohesion related programs in the Eastern Cape. I think what I should first indicate is that we have social cohesion advocates that are spread across the provinces. And of course, over time, which is something we are currently addressing, some have become inactive. But if I'm speaking about Western Cape in particular, we are left with 2 active social cohesion advocates there. The programs that they are running are programs that, if I may just give high-level summary, programs that are focused on communities, first assisting communities in terms of their leadership structures, how to deal with social issues. So it's more of a community leader empowerment program. And then there are programs where they would go directly and assist working with these local structures, whether it's issues of peace building, where there have been issues of social unrest of different dimensions. So they would assist in that regard with conflict resolution mechanisms, whether training or just engaging as well as facilitators. They would also have youth-focused interventions, empowering youth to cope within their environment, GBVF-related programs, assisting those that are affected directly or indirectly, just tracing the source of the social ills, as they would as well go into communities and do a scan to say what is a challenge within that particular community. So it's that kind of mix of interventions, and greatly they would be guided by the communities they engage with. So even in the case of what has been raised here, perhaps I should receive that comment as an invitation that says perhaps we can go closer to the member and hear the specific locality being referred to, and from there perhaps we can work out a program. But added to that, the social cohesion in conclusion, they also support other initiatives of the department in terms of the social dialogues that we are running. So we would be using them as facilitators in those social dialogues or community dialogues. I think from there, also being mindful of time, I can move to the Imbizos. The Imbizos, it's an initiative that is appearing if members compare our APP, this one and the previous one. It's a new indicator as mentioned. So we have started this being mindful of the fact that as we were finalizing our thoughts around these Imbizos, were clear in terms of information that we're receiving, that government at large is also planning some Imbizos, which will be the presidential Imbizos, and the provinces as well, they have their own Imbizos. However, we still took a stand to say we shall have physical Imbizos at least in each province. So the budget is based on at least an appearance with an Imbizo in each and every province. Hence, we have about 9 Imbizos planned. And then the budget for this is tagged to our budget that we use for community conversations, for the national days, as well as linked to the moral regeneration program. So we are just taking a percentage, about 10% of that amount of money, which we said it will be set aside for us to run the imbizos, which gives us at least immediate seed fund of about 500K per province, knowing that some of the things that we shall have to provide in preparations for the logistics for the imbizos, they may come from the provinces, because we don't go into an imbizo in the province by ourselves. This is more like a partnership engagement and program with our partner department in the province. So in our way of doing things, they would contribute as well to our plan, because it's a joint plan. And then talking to the issue of the key or priority vacant posts, if they have been filled or not, those critical positions, they have all been filled. We have the CFO here. We have also filled the position of Chief Internal Audit Executive. We also have filled the position of Chief Director, Human Resource Management and Development. So all the critical positions have been filled, Chairperson and members. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can I then take DDG Kumalo?
Thank you very much, DG. I am hoping I am audible. I am in the Northern Cape, the northern part of it, actually. So also I'm going to switch off, request to switch off my video, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair and members, I am going to be responding to the question on the issue of the relief and the disgruntlement that came through evidently from the artists. I would respond to actually say, indeed, as far as the department is concerned, we did our best to meet the challenges that the artists were faced with, especially during the COVID-19, the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And there were a number of interventions that were put in place. And if I were to provide the honorable members with a round figure of how much support we provided, it stood at ultimately by the end of March, starting from the time when the relief fund was being dispersed to the end of March 2022, it stood at more than 800 million, which is 811 million to be exact, which was the total amount that came through reprioritization of our own budget as a department. We're taking cognizant of the importance of this relief. The department had to go back to its programs and reprioritize and find the money to go towards this relief. And then included in this 811 million that was ultimately dispersed is the allocation that we were given by the National Treasury towards the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, with which we were also able to support the industry. So just talking to this 811 million that was ultimately provided, I need to also indicate to the honorable members that a smaller figure of that 811 million would include some of the support that went to the athletes, but about more than 95% went to the creative industry. This intervention that I'm talking about, Honorable Chair and members, was made up of a relief fund that was phased into three, phase 1, 2, and 3, and also the partnerships that we managed to secure, where as a department, we partnered with the Department of Small Business and Development, and we contributed enough amount of budget
to meet the needs of specific genres, for instance, the area of craft, the area of visual arts, and then also the partnerships that we secured with the Solidarity Fund, where we were able to also secure some support. So just looking at the relief fund only, a total amount of 197 million was dispersed. So out of the 811 million, Honorable Chair, that I'm talking about, 197 million of that was just made up of the reprioritization that was done by the department, looking at its own budget. And it ultimately benefited more than 21,000 creatives in the country. The balance of the amount is 613 million, Honorable Chair. That benefited a total of 37,557 creatives within the industry. So the total number of beneficiaries, as it were, that we managed through reprioritization and through PESP to support is standing at more than 59,000, just in terms of the number of beneficiaries. And this figure is actually inclusive of some of the organizations and enterprises that the department supported. So indeed, to answer the honorable member's question, we believe as a department, we did our best to assist the creative industry during this challenging time, more especially. However, Honorable Chair, I need to also emphasize the fact that there were a lot of lessons that we also learned. Therefore, one of the interventions that we have commenced with as a department is the development of a database so that we have clarity around who is a creative in this country. Because what we found is that we got a number of applications coming through for relief funding, you know, with some of the applicants actually sending their applications more than once, twice, or three times. And you will find that the information pertaining to whether or not that person is a creative is not really sustained sufficiently. Some of the proof that we required was you know, letters of confirmation from the sector organizations, letters of confirmations, for instance, from the community leaders within the space where the creative industry reside, etc. However, going forward, so that we fully structure our interventions and we also know who we are supporting, we have embarked on this process of the development of the database where the creatives would be registered, and we can then be able to deal with the interventions more in a more focused and sustainable manner. So, Honorable Chairperson and members, that is how I would respond to the question in terms of the amount of budget ultimately dispersed and the number of beneficiaries that benefited from the interventions that the department put in place to address the challenges of the creative during COVID-19, but also touching on the lessons learned and the interventions we are putting forward so that we don't have a recurrence of some of the challenges we experience as a department. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you, DG.
Thanks, DDG Khan. The issue of the support to athletes and getting better medals hall in the next Olympic. Sumaya.
Sorry, DG. Thank you very much, DG. Good morning to the chairperson and good morning to the members and to DG, DM, DG and colleagues. Chairperson, just to respond to the question around the budget reductions in program 2, It was about 4 million rands that the budget was reduced from the last financial year. And I think it was something that was informed by Treasury, taking into consideration the CPI, etc. So there's a small reduction. And this was actually, some of it came out of the earmarked funding and also through other line items as well. So it was a small reduction in terms of the budget. Chairperson, in terms of the issue around athletics, athletics is one of the priority codes of sport. And yes, we do support all of our federations, at least about 60 of our federations, and our budget is very limited in terms of the support that we give to these federations. We have about 117 million rands that we have to transfer to plus minus 60 sporting codes. But in the case of athletics, in the last financial year, we have allocated 5.7 million rands to them. And in terms of the support, we provided support towards administration costs as well as towards the programs. Madam Chair, with regard to support to athletics towards the Olympic Games in 2024. Now, if you look at the major events, major preparation, team preparation for major multi-coded events like the Olympic Games, like the Commonwealth Games, etc., the responsibility is very clear in terms of the Act that it lies with the federations themselves to prepare the athletes for these events, and also with the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee. But from our side, we also look at the prospect of the codes and the medals that they have, the prospect of them getting medals as well. And we try and provide some support to SASCOC so that they can then identify those athletes who have the potential of winning medals at major international events. And it's not only confined to athletics, there are other codes of sports as well. But holistically, between ourselves and with SASCOC, Madam Chair, if we look at the last Olympic Games and in preparation for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, we have already started to review the team performance of Team South Africa at the Olympic Games last year. There was an independent service provider who has done that review. We're just waiting the final report of that review. And in addition, Madam Chair, in preparation or as a dry run towards the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, there is the Commonwealth Games taking place in Birmingham in July this year. So many of the athletes that have been identified and will participate there are actually those who are also preparing for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. With regard to support to athletics as a whole, Madam Chair, if you look at the African Championships that just took place, the Senior African Championships, we committed to assist them with that championships. And if you look at the performance, the championships took place in Mauritius. South Africa fielded 89 athletes at that event, and 36 of them received podium places, 9 gold, 13 silver, and 14 bronze. And they finished second on the medal table behind Kenya. And we have committed to providing support to them, to the African Championships. So that, Madam Chair, is a response towards the question around athletics. DG, I think I've covered those questions that came from around program 2. Thank you very much, Chair.
No, thanks very much, DDG. Maybe Honorable Chairperson, starting with the issue of the athletics and the preparations for France or Paris, is that also the interventions that we'll be making as we continue with the support of the elite athletes is working with SASCOC. The minister and the president of SASCOC have set a team which include led by myself from the department as well as led by the CEO of SASCOC, to review the previous dismal performance of the team in the last Olympics in Japan. So we are working on that, and a scientific properly diagnosis of the problem. SASCOC commissioned the University of Cape Town so that they have some independence in the review. But the team is finalizing that, and now that the report has come, for us now to process that report and look at the interventions based on the areas of weaknesses that the report would have identified, whether it's in preparations, whether it's funding, areas that need to be strengthened. But in a nutshell, Chairperson, we should be able to come back at some point to the select committee with that particular intervention plan that we would have developed, and then be able to indicate what is being done. At the same time, with the programs we have on the elite athletes, as well as the funding we provide to SASCOC when they prepare teams, we have a special budget that would normally provide to assist in the team preparation for Olympics. But we want to really see a big change, both in terms of performance and reflection of the team, in terms of demography of South Africa as they go there. But we must say, Chairperson, that there are a number of constraints that the issue of the budget of the department, and looking at the fact that sport is not played by someone who is sick, and therefore you go to hospital. It's for every citizen. So if we say you've got 60 million citizens and you have a department funded at 6 billion rand, and that money is spent outside of the department, it is a challenge. And that is why Minister Mr. Mtetwa have also decided we still pursue the issue of the tax incentives or some incentives that can be provided to the private sector so that they come on board to provide funding, which will assist us to really address the issues. Because in this country, we are talking about 1 to 5,000 people for each coach. When you look at Australian model, you look at UK model, they will be talking of 1 to 40 or 1 to 100, yet we are having a dearth of talent, of skilled coaches. So then you've got the issue of infrastructure, which then becomes an inhibiting factor in terms of where do we practice when kids do not have opportunities to go and train just for they've never seen the track. They don't know how to get hold of to use the hurdle. So these are the things, the swimming pools, but we need also the metros, which is one of the things also that has been raised from our side, that the metros should be able to also ring-fence budget like MIG, because MIG is only targeting local municipalities. But what about the metros who have billions of rands, almost, I don't know how many times compared to the department, but they hardly budget for issues of sport. They will prioritize other things and they don't have a ring-fence budget. As a support will require also from the lead from Parliament, so that we are able to have this money being stretched and not look only at national to do this. But in the short term, we are then working with SASCOC to look at mechanisms, but also to just make sure that athletes who have potential in terms of medal, which we call medal hopefuls, are really given opportunity for training in time. And then while we build a pipeline for future champions and winning more medals going to the Olympics. Then on the issue, Chairperson, that has been raised around the funding and the support to the sector, I can just emphasize the point. This is a concurrent function in terms of the Constitution. Now, one of the things that we had to do was to then engage with the provinces to also see how they can best support creatives as well as athletes in their provinces so that we are able to assist more creatives. It is unfortunate that most people will look at national when in fact there's no clarity how much money is being appropriated for sport by provinces in their own allocations. And that then makes everybody look at national. And it's something that has to change. Provinces have to have in their own budget for sport, arts, and culture so that they support then the athletic. So in this area, we had to also, Chairperson, Honorable Ndongeni, assist by saying we went to Treasury to get more money to be ring-fenced from the very same budget that we had, the DORA grant, so that they can be sure that they can access more money and assist more athletes at a provincial level. And these are some of the systemic issues that for us to achieve excellence in our sport and be able to support also our creatives, all spheres of government have a duty to see how they budget and support local artists who then become eventually our national stars and icons at the end of the day. So we are now having those meetings where SALCA attends our meetings so that we engage and create this partnership on seeing how we can collaborate. And SALCA attends the minister and MEC's meetings, and then we share on how best they can assist us in this regard. But I believe sometimes the focus is skewed towards national when this is supposed to be all government spheres are supposed to provide support to the creatives, then we'll reach more. But also we will then develop better the creative sector and the sporting sector. Chairperson, those are just the points. Otherwise, my colleagues, on the issue of racism in Western Cape, I think Honorable Kilion is correct. It is a big challenge. The interventions we're making might not reach as many and achieve as much change as we want in the Western Cape. And it is something that requires concerted effort. And for us, the programs might only touch here and there. I understood that the Honorable Kilion was saying it's not just some communities, but it was affecting almost everyone who was a part and parcel of the State SA and volunteers who were busy doing implementing the program of census. So I think it is a problem. It is not enough for us to have such minimal programs. It requires really a concerted effort by all and working together to try and change the mindset that is still very pervasive of white supremacy vis-a-vis inferiority complex that is there, resulting in serious racism. So I think we will appreciate any support that we can also get to expand our footprint and have more social cohesion advocates in the Western Cape to work together with the society and target communities about the change of mindset. But it is not gonna be easy because majority of people who might have this sense of white superiority will even from abroad will prefer to have a destination in Western Cape. So it's how do we change that mindset that Western Cape is not an exclusive for a superior race, but it's for everyone in this country. And that is about social cohesion programs we need to make, while we don't forget other areas similar and with the same racist tendency practices that keep raising the ugly head we don't want. So we will ask for it, we work and collaborate with the NCOP on how best we can address that, starting with the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you, DJ. Member,
Chair, I'm back, Chair.
oh, okay. Thank you,
Yes.
TM.
Thank you so
TM.
much. Chair. I know that I get cut off and then get on again, but I just wanted to, I listened to the responses from the officials from the department, and I really want to appreciate how they have clarified certain issues. And I just wanted to reconfirm the fact that Izimbizo and the social cohesion programs are actually meant to complement each other in terms of making sure that we get closer to our people. Because one of the big issues is the fact that communities always complain about the fact that they are not in touch with the government. So what we then try to do with Izimbizo and the social cohesion programs is to try and bridge that gap. And of course, it might not be enough, and the members of the NCOP could help us around here because they are closer to the people and they are on the ground. So they can be able to assist us and actually say to us here and there, we think you should do more programs and there's more that can be done. I just wanted to appreciate that. And just to also confirm that for the 2024 Paris Olympics, we are all on the same page in the fact that we want more medals there. And therefore, when DG and DG Sumaya were saying we are having interactions with SASCOC on that, and the fact that
TM. TM.
that have raised are assisting us to actually perfect the programs of the department.
TM.
Yes,
TM.
ma'am.
I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry. I'm sorry. Ukhathekile sigqibele usithi as much uba uSumaya besithi wamka walahleka.
Oh, okay. I'm back now.
Okay.
I'm saying,
Yes,
am I back now? So you can hear me properly?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I was saying it's as much as Usumaya and Udiji Sumaya and Udiji were clarifying the issue about how we want the team to perform well for the 2024 Olympics in Paris. We also want to confirm that it is also our interest as much as the select committee is their interest. And we will be coming back to you once we have put together a strategy to brief the select committee so that you are on the loop on what is it that we want to make sure that that team performs well in Paris. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much for the questions and the recommendations that you have raised, because they also assist the department to perfect the programs and make sure that here and there we tweak and make it work as the members have raised. And one is confirming and committing to the fact that we will come back and brief the select committee on progress made on some of the issues. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, TM. Siyabulela. But DG, CFO didn't answer my question or didn't explain to me the difference between the current and capital.
CFO.
No, thanks, Honorable Chair. The difference between the capital and current is more into maintenance budget of libraries, and then capital, it will be on the construction of the new libraries, including rehabilitations, the major rehabilitation of a library. Thank you. So the capital is in the major expenditure, and then current is a small expenditure. Thank you.
But in your report, the current is more than the capital, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, because you are maintaining already what is there, because you've got many of libraries already, Chair. So you are only building few, the new ones.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Members, any follow-up questions? Tando? Tando?
There's nothing, Chair.
Oh, okay. Okay, where is Chair? Not yet back.
Not yet.
Okay, let me close the meeting. Thank you, TM and the DG, for availing yourselves in this meeting. We appreciate that, because when you are not in the meeting, TM, because it's APP, you're supposed to own yeyakho. That's why they see eager into mawube khona meeting. But again, all in that, we thank you for that. We appreciate that. Let's see next time what we can do. We hear what you are saying, DG, but we're not promising anything. We can do what we can do. But on that note, thank you very much. Let's close the meeting. The meeting is adjourned.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Ndongeni, and the members and the Deputy Minister. Colleagues, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, and the honorable members. Thank you very, very much.
Siyabulela sihlalo obambeleyo enkosi kakhulu.
Oh, nobody had shaky.
Thank you.
Oh, well
Okay,
done.
thanks.
Thank you.
Recording stopped. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Oh, ndiyakwenye nge-quarter to 1. Ndingusihlalo nakuyo. Thanks, Baba Yin.
Bye, Ntombi. Bye, Mampela.
Bye, Puti. Yewethu lithini bali siyahamba ne?
You andisenawari yongani. Khiya uyibone la ndibhalwe phangu nantsika.
Ndibone la ndibhalwe nguMarcel Khathonga khandifuna uyihoya.
Hayi ndakayihoya mntasekhaya asihambi.
Khandifuna uyihoya. Vele aqoba mabe ngathi akathethi ndam.
Beth, asihambi ntana.
Oh, Ntombi, njani?
Elo xesha besendiqalile umane ndithatha into ndifake ebhegini, ndithatha enye ndifake ebhegini.
It's not a dream.
Hayi ndangasihambi tu ndicele.
Kodwa ndivile nje lana ntsika. Oh, okay.
Yazi
Beqale kwa uchairperson wathi akahambi. That's Musba why.
and nguye lo wenze yonke la.
Nguye usenzele into phakathi kwabantu. Bye phela.
Bye mntasekhaya. Bye.
Okay.